The Orion's flame drifted silently through the dark expanse of space, the hum of its engines the only sound in the otherwise lifeless void. Commander Alira Cross stood at the command deck, staring out through the view screen, watching the stars flicker past as if mocking her every hope. Humanity had been pushed to the brink of extinction. Earth was in ruins, and its colonies, spread across the galaxy, were falling one by one to the relentless alien forces. Even the mighty fleet of the United Earth Coalition had been scattered, forced into a never-ending retreat. Alira tightened her grip on the railing as she reviewed the data once again. The Orion's flame was one of the last remaining warships, and its mission was simple: survive. It had been 6 years since the alien invaders, a technologically superior species known as the Torth, had launched their devastating assault, wiping out entire human settlements in a matter of days. Every resistance movement that had sprung up was crushed without mercy. The Torth were relentless, methodical, and the galaxy had started to surrender to their might. But today, everything had changed. The signal. It had come from the outer rim of the galaxy, a location once considered beyond the reach of even the Torth's expansion. A faint, distorted transmission, filled with static, but unmistakably human. Earth's ancient frequencies had long been forgotten, lost to time, yet the signal pulsed with an energy that defied comprehension. It was more than just a distress call. There was something about it that felt like a challenge, a beckoning, a defiant message from the past. "Commander," a voice broke into her thoughts. It was Lieutenant Marcus Hale, the ship's operations officer, his face grim but with a glimmer of curiosity. "We've decrypted the signal. It's something we've never seen before. It's not just human. It's older. Much older." Alira turned to face him, her mind racing. "What do you mean, older?" "We've traced it back to a point beyond the galactic core," Hale continued, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "It's coming from an ancient colony, a forgotten outpost established centuries ago, before the Torth even made their first move into the galaxy. The signal is an invitation." Invitation. Alira's brows furrowed. From who? Hale didn't have an answer. He simply handed her the decrypted data, which glowed on the screen in front of her. The message was encoded in an archaic human language, one that hadn't been used since the fall of the early human colonies. Yet the pattern was unmistakable. It was a call to arms, a rallying cry for a war long forgotten, a war humanity had been destined to fight once more. "This could be the key," Alira muttered under her breath, more to herself than to Hale. "A way to turn the tide." She knew what she had to do. Alira turned back to the bridge. Set course for the source of the signal. Full speed ahead. The crew around her exchanged wary glances, but no one questioned her. They all understood that the situation had become desperate. Humanity needed hope, and this signal, no matter how cryptic or dangerous, might be the only thing that could spark a revolution. "Commander, if this is a trap," Hale began, but Alira cut him off with a sharp glance. "We don't have the luxury of caution anymore, Lieutenant," she said. "The Torth won't wait for us to recover. If this is a trap, we'll fight our way out. But if this is the sign we've been waiting for, we take it. We take it, and we use it to win this war." The Orion's flame surged forward into the unknown, the beacon of humanity's last hope glowing faintly in the distance. The dark void of space seemed to pull them deeper into its grasp, but Alira held on to her belief. No matter the cost, this signal was their chance to reclaim the stars. As they left behind the fading remnants of human civilization, the crew couldn't help but wonder, was this truly the salvation they had prayed for, or was it just the beginning of the end? The Orion's flame cruised deeper into the uncharted space, the crew bracing themselves for what awaited them at the signal source. Commander Alira Cross stood in the war room, staring at a holographic map of the galaxy. The region they were headed into was perilous, a lawless expanse where even the Torth had hesitated to venture. It was here that humanity's last hope might lay. hidden in the debris of forgotten outposts. The map, flickering with light, seemed to pulse in time with the unknown signal, as if drawing them in. "Commander," Lieutenant Hale's voice crackled through the comms. "We're approaching the system. The signal's getting stronger. It's coming from a planetary system, highly fortified, but the signature reads like an old Earth colony. I can't be sure, but it could be a trap." Alira's heart skipped a beat. Or it could be our salvation. She turned to the rest of the crew gathered in the war room, their faces set with determination, each one knowing that this mission could be the end of their fight, or the start of something much greater. Lieutenant Hale had always been cautious, but his skepticism was shared by many aboard the Orion's Flame. In a galaxy where trust was a luxury they could no longer afford, everyone was on edge. "We've come this far, and we can't turn back now," Alira said, her voice firm. "Prepare for landing. We'll take whatever this outpost is offering, whether it's a trap or a weapon we can use." As the ship neared the planet, the tension grew. The alien threat loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon, and their chances of survival seemed slim, even with the beacon's promise. The crew had not seen Earth in years, its distant blue-green glow now only a faint memory, and the further they ventured from it, the more isolated they felt. But now, in the wake of humanity's near extinction, they had one simple goal: strike back. "Commander," said Captain Amelia Fenn, the ship's second-in-command, her voice breaking the silence, "we're being hailed." "On screen," Alira ordered. A garbled image flickered to life on the display. The figure on the other side appeared worn, yet his eyes burned with urgency. He was human. At least he looked human. But there was something unsettling about his appearance. His face was pale, and his voice had a rasp to it that hinted at years of isolation. "This is Captain Markov of the Coalition Remnant," the figure said, his voice crackling with static. "You found it, haven't you? The beacon." "Who are you?" Alira demanded. "What's going on here?" Markov's eyes narrowed, his expression a mixture of relief and suspicion. "I'm not sure how you found us, but you've done what no one else could. The beacon, it's been dormant for centuries. It was meant to send a message, to unite the last of humanity. But it's more than that now. The Torth, they know what's coming." "What's coming?" Alira pressed, sensing the urgency in his tone. "The war," Markov replied, a deep sorrow in his voice. "We thought we could stop it with diplomacy, but the Torth are beyond reason. This beacon, it's a weapon, but it's also a rallying cry. It's been activating other systems, other groups of humans scattered across the galaxy. If we can all unite, we might have a chance. But the Torth are already hunting us down. They'll destroy this beacon before it can bring us together." The transmission flickered, then cut out, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Alira turned to the crew, her mind racing. The Orion's Flame was one of the last ships capable of mounting a meaningful resistance, and now this message, this hidden force of humanity, had given them the greatest opportunity they could hope for. But it also came with a deadly cost. The Torth would stop at nothing to ensure their grip on the galaxy remained unchallenged. "Set course for Captain Markov's coordinates," Alira ordered, her voice sharp with resolve. "Prepare for a fight. We're not alone anymore. We have allies, and we'll make sure the Torth understand that humanity is not going to surrender." The Orion's Flame powered up, its engines roaring to life as it dove deeper into the unknown. Around them, a galaxy on the brink of destruction watched as the last spark of resistance ignited once more. The crew of the Orion's Flame wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for something greater, a chance for humanity to rise again. And this time, they wouldn't be alone. The Orion's Flame descended toward the planet's surface, the stars shrinking as the ship breached the atmosphere. Below, a sprawling complex of fortified structures gleamed in the dim light of the distant sun, the heart of a long-forgotten human colony that had endured against all odds. The gravity of the situation settled heavily on Commander Alira Cross as she paced the bridge, her mind running through countless scenarios. If Captain Markov's warning was accurate, the Zorth were already on their way, and their ability to mobilize faster than the human fleet meant they had precious little time to prepare. "Commander," Lieutenant Hale said, his voice tight with tension, "we've detected multiple ships in orbit. Zorth signatures. They're not just searching, they're hunting." "How many?" Alira asked, stopping in her tracks. "At least 3 battlecruisers, heavily armed. They've already begun to deploy landing forces to the surface. We'll be lucky to get through without a fight," Hale replied, his fingers flying across the console as he updated the data. Alira's jaw tightened. "If they're on the ground, then we need to move quickly. We can't afford to get bogged down in a space battle." Captain Amelia Fenn, ever the strategist, joined the conversation. "We can't afford to ignore them either. If we leave the Zorth unchecked, we'll be playing right into their hands. We'll have to secure the planet's surface, and fast." Alira nodded, her thoughts aligning with Fenn's. "Prepare a strike force. We'll fight our way to the colony's central command hub. That's where Markov's signal came from. We have to make contact with him and find out exactly what we're dealing with before it's too late." The Orion's flame hovered just above the surface, cloaked in the shadows of the planet's rugged terrain. Below them, a small team of soldiers suited in full combat gear made their way toward the colony's inner sanctum. They were ready for the kind of fight humanity had hoped to avoid. Now, it was here. Inside the war room, Alira ran through final preparations, checking each member of her crew's assignments. "Stay focused. We don't know what we'll face down there, but we can't let fear drive us. The future of humanity depends on this mission." The air grew thick with anticipation as the doors slid open, and the squad of soldiers stood ready to deploy. Alira exchanged a final glance with her team, each one as determined as she was. There would be no turning back. "Let's move out." The surface of the planet was a desolate wasteland, scarred by generations of neglect. The remnants of human infrastructure dotted the landscape, crumbling skyscrapers and abandoned research facilities, all of it a grim reminder of a once thriving civilization now reduced to rubble. The Zorth invaders had found their way to this forgotten world, using it as a base of operations, a launchpad for their assault on the rest of the galaxy. Alira's team moved with swift precision, their footsteps muffled on the cracked concrete as they approached the colony's command hub. Lieutenant Hale led the way, scanning the area for any sign of Zorth forces. "Sensors are clear for now. We'll move fast." The team breached the command hub's gates, weapons at the ready, only to find an unexpected sight: humans. These were not the survivors Alira had anticipated. These were soldiers, hardened and battle-worn, with the emblem of the Coalition remnant emblazoned on their armor. Their faces were grim, but there was no mistaking the spark of defiance in their eyes. Captain Markov stood among them, his expression unreadable, though a flicker of relief crossed his face when he saw Alira and her crew. "You made it," he said, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "I wasn't sure anyone would." "We've come to help," Alira replied, scanning the room. "What's the situation?" Markov stepped aside, revealing a large table with holographic projections of the galaxy. The image displayed Zorth fleets moving methodically across various sectors. "The signal is more than a call to arms. It's a beacon. It's what drew us together. But it's also a key, one that unlocks a power hidden on this planet, something humanity hasn't touched in centuries. If we can harness it, we might have a fighting chance." Alira studied the projections. "And if we can't?" "Then we lose," Markov said bluntly. "The Zorth will wipe us out, and the galaxy will fall under their rule." Alira's fists clenched. "Then we'll fight, and we'll win. But we need to know everything, every weapon, every secret. We can't afford to be caught off guard." Markov's eyes darkened. "There's more. The Zorth don't just want to destroy us. They want to use our technology. And they've been searching for the same weapon we've been trying to unlock. Alira felt a cold chill as the weight of their struggle hit home. The Torth weren't just invaders. They were predators, stalking their prey with an intelligence and ruthlessness that humanity had yet to match. This would not be an easy fight. Then we'll take the fight to them, Alira said. We'll stop them before they can take what's ours. The storm was coming, and it wasn't just the Torth. Humanity was on the brink of its greatest battle, and every step they took from here would determine whether they would emerge victorious or become just another casualty of a galaxy ruled by invaders. The command hub buzzed with activity as Alira and her team absorbed the gravity of their situation. The Orion's flame hovered above the surface, cloaked and silent, its crew standing by, ready to strike once orders were given. But the real battle was happening inside the crumbling walls of the colony's command center. We've isolated the signal, Markov said, his voice low and steady, as his fingers danced over the holographic table. It's coming from a sub-level beneath this facility, a vault no one's been able to access in over a century. The Torth are already in the process of breaching it. Alira's heart pounded in her chest. The vault. She had heard rumors of ancient technologies hidden by the original Earth settlers, something powerful enough to change the course of the war. If it was there, it was their only hope. How close are they? Alira asked, stepping forward, scanning the projections. Too close, Markov replied, his voice clipped with urgency. We have about an hour before they force their way in. Once they have access to the vault, it's over. Alira turned to Captain Fenn, her second in command. We move now. We can't let them take it. Assemble a strike team. We'll go in with full force. Understood. Fenn responded with a firm nod, and she moved quickly to relay the orders. The team gathered their weapons, and Alira couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them. If they failed, humanity's last hope would be lost, and the Torth would have the weapon they needed to finish what they had started. Alira knew the odds were slim, but in her heart, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The journey to the vault was treacherous. The colony, once a bustling hub for exploration and scientific research, had now become a ruin. Hallways that once echoed with the footsteps of ambitious engineers were now filled with silence and debris. The air was thick with dust, and every shadow seemed to hide danger. As Alira and her team navigated the winding corridors, the tension was palpable. Every turn felt like a step closer to their inevitable confrontation. Hale was at the front, his rifle raised, eyes scanning every corner. Sorth ahead, he muttered through clenched teeth. Alira signaled for the team to take cover. The alien invaders had already infiltrated the facility, and their sharp, angular forms were easily visible in the dim light. The Torth were unlike any other enemy humanity had faced before. Their skin was like chitin, hard and nearly impervious to human weaponry. Their eyes, glowing with an eerie intelligence, seemed to pierce the very souls of those who faced them. Ready yourselves, Alira whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the facility. This is our moment. We push forward together. We can't let them win. The team moved as one, a well-oiled machine of military precision. The Torth were formidable, but humanity's resilience and unity were unmatched. They fought with a desperation born of knowing that their survival was at stake. As they neared the vault's entrance, the heavy blast doors loomed before them, guarded by several Torth soldiers. They didn't flinch as the humans approached, their weaponry prepared for a showdown. We need to move fast, Captain Fenn murmured, preparing to make a move. Alira nodded. On my command. The standoff was brief, a heartbeat in time before the first gunshots rang out, reverberating through the hallways. The Torth soldiers took cover, firing back with precision. But humanity fought with everything they had, pushing through the opposition with relentless tenacity. Explosions lit up the air as grenades rocketed toward the Torth, and the echo of laser fire filled the air. In the chaos, Alira charged forward, her combat knife in hand, slicing through the first Torth soldier in her path. The alien let out a guttural scream, but it was swiftly silenced as Alira pressed forward, determined not to let anything stop them. Fen and the rest of the team followed suit, pushing through the lines of resistance, inching closer to the vault. "Hold the line," Fen shouted as they reached the vault door. "We've got to breach it." With swift efficiency, Hale worked on the terminal beside the door, his fingers flying over the interface. "Almost there. I just need a few more seconds." Alira's heart raced as she turned to face the Zorth soldiers still attempting to push forward. The enemy was relentless, but so were they. The soldiers had trained for this moment, and now was their chance to secure the future of humanity. Hale let out a breathless shout. "Got it." The massive doors slid open with a heavy metallic groan, revealing the vault within. The room was dark, but the faint glow of ancient technology filled the air. In the center of the chamber stood a console, its interface glowing with a light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Alira stepped forward, her fingers brushing against the surface. It was the weapon they had been searching for, the key to humanity's survival. But just as they moved to activate it, a cold, harsh voice echoed from the entrance. "It's too late." The voice was chilling, sharp, cold, and unmistakable. Alira whipped around, her pulse quickening as a figure emerged from the shadows near the vault entrance. The Zorth commander, a towering figure encased in gleaming armor, stepped forward, his glowing eyes fixed on the humans. "Did you truly believe you could unlock what was never meant for you?" The commander's voice resonated, deep and authoritative, echoing through the cavernous vault. "This weapon, it is not for your kind." Alira's breath caught in her throat as the realization struck. The Zorth had known about the weapon all along. It wasn't merely a relic of humanity's past. It was something far more ancient, something that had been hidden for a reason. The Zorth hadn't just come to destroy humanity. They had come to claim what they believed was rightfully theirs. "Who are you?" Alira demanded, her rifle still raised, but her grip faltering as doubt crept in. "Why do you want this weapon?" The commander's lips twisted into something that might have been a smile if it hadn't been so unsettling. "We are the Zorth, rulers of the galaxy long before your species ever dreamed of the stars. This weapon was created by an ancient race, one far older than humanity, or your so-called Zorth Empire. And now, it is ours to control." The revelation hit Alira like a physical blow. "You're telling me the weapon wasn't created by us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Correct," the commander said, a dark satisfaction in his voice. "This weapon is not of human origin. It was forged by a civilization that transcended mortality, long before your kind even walked the earth, and it holds power that could unmake entire systems. For eons, we have searched for it, to claim it, and wield it against all who stand in our way. You are nothing more than an obstacle that will be erased." Alira's mind reeled as the commander's words sank in. This wasn't just a fight for humanity's survival. It was a battle for control over something far more dangerous, a power that could shift the balance of the galaxy forever. The weapon wasn't just humanity's salvation. It was a weapon of unimaginable destruction, and it was something that Zorth had been hunting for centuries. "Then why let us find it?" Alira asked, trying to make sense of the Zorth commander's logic. "Why not just destroy us outright?" The commander's eyes gleamed with malevolent amusement. "You think you've won. You think your beacon has brought you hope, but you are mistaken. You have only revealed the location of the weapon to us, allowing us to take it from your hands without lifting a finger. And when we are done with it, we will burn your world and all that remains of your species to dust." Alira's gaze hardened, her resolve solidifying. The commander was right about one thing. The beacon had brought them here, but what he failed to account for was humanity's indomitable spirit. No matter how hopeless the situation seemed, humanity had never been one to surrender without a fight. "We won't let you take it," Alira said, her voice steady, though the weight of the revelation still hung heavily in her mind. "We'll fight for this. We'll fight for our future." The Zorth commander's expression darkened, his eyes narrowing with disdain. "You will fight, but you will lose. I will see to it personally." Without warning, the commander raised his hand, and a dozen Zorth soldiers emerged from the shadows, their weapons primed. The room crackled with tension as both sides prepared for what was sure to be a brutal confrontation. Alyra glanced over at her team, and without a word, they fell into formation, their focus unwavering. The fight was not over, and the weapon, now more critical than ever, was still within reach. But with the Zorth commander standing in their way, it was clear that this battle would test every ounce of their strength and willpower. Captain Fenn stepped forward, her voice calm but resolute. "We don't back down. We hold the line." With a nod, Alyra's fingers tightened around the trigger. The fight for the weapon was about to become a fight for their very survival. The air was thick with tension as the first shots rang out. Zorth soldiers rushed forward, their weapons emitting an eerie hum as they fired. The humans retaliated, laser blasts lighting up the room in rapid succession. The vault's walls shuddered from the intensity of the firestorm, but the team held their ground. Alyra's heart pounded in her chest as she moved, darting from cover to cover, her eyes never leaving the Zorth commander. She couldn't let them take the weapon. It was humanity's only chance, and she would not allow it to fall into the hands of the Zorth. But even as she fought, a troubling thought lingered in the back of her mind. If the Zorth were right, if this weapon truly was something beyond humanity's understanding, could they even control it? Or would it destroy them just as it could destroy everything else? The battle inside the ancient vault raged with unrelenting ferocity. Zorth soldiers moved with mechanical precision, their towering forms advancing through the hailstorm of human gunfire. Alyra ducked behind a shattered column, firing precise bursts at the enemy. Each shot was a desperate plea to keep the Zorth from advancing on the mysterious weapon. Amid the chaos, the console at the weapon's base flared to life. Bright, alien symbols rippled across its surface, casting a kaleidoscope of colors against the stone walls. The beacon's activation had stirred something deep within the ancient structure, and now the weapon seemed to respond. It hummed with energy, an ominous vibration that reverberated through the ground and shook the very air. "Alyra," Captain Fenn shouted over the cacophony of gunfire. "Whatever's happening, it's accelerating. We need to secure that weapon now, or it'll be game over for all of us." "I'm working on it," Alyra yelled back, her heart pounding. She exchanged fire with a pair of Zorth soldiers before vaulting over a low barrier. "Kara, status on the weapon." Kara, hunched over her datapad behind a makeshift barricade, frantically typed as streams of alien code scrolled across her screen. Her voice trembled as she replied, Oh God, it's starting to power up. I think the beacon activated an automatic sequence. If we don't stop it, it's going to fire." "What happens if it fires?" Alyra demanded, dodging a plasma blast that narrowly missed her shoulder. Kara looked up, her face pale. "I don't know, but judging by these energy readings, it'll make a supernova look like a sparkler." Alyra felt her stomach drop. The weapon wasn't just a relic. It was a doomsday device. The stakes had gone from humanity's survival to the survival of the galaxy itself. "Fenn," Alyra called out, "we need to shut this thing down now. It's a lot more than we thought it was." Fenn's eyes flicked to the console, then to the advancing Zorth commander. "Understood. Kara, you've got 2 minutes to stop this thing, or we're pulling back." "I'll try," Kara said, sweat dripping from her brow as she frantically tapped into the console's interface. The Zorth commander stepped forward, his glowing armor undeterred by the blaster fire. He raised a clawed hand, and a wave of energy radiated outward, sending several human soldiers sprawling. Alyra's ears rang as she fought to stay on her feet. "You cannot stop it," the Zorth commander said, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. "This power is beyond your comprehension. Surrender, and I may yet grant your kind a quick death." "Not a chance," Alyra growled, leveling her rifle at him. She fired a series of rapid shots, but the energy shields surrounding him absorbed them effortlessly. As the battle grew more desperate, Kara let out a panicked cry. "It's locking me out. The system's too advanced. I can't override it." Alira's mind raced. The console was their only hope, but with Kara blocked, they needed a new plan. Her gaze shifted to the weapon itself, its core pulsing with energy. If they couldn't shut it down, maybe they could redirect it, or overload it entirely. "Fen," she shouted, her voice resolute. "We need to change tactics. If we can't stop it from firing, we have to make sure it doesn't fire at anyone." Fen's brow furrowed. "And how do you propose we do that?" Alira pointed at the weapon. "We overload the core. If we push it beyond its limits, it might burn itself out." "That's a hell of a gamble," Fen replied, dodging a plasma bolt. "It's either that or let it fall into their hands," Alira said, her voice firm. "We don't have time for anything else." Fen nodded grimly. "Do it, Kara. Help her however you can. The rest of us will hold the Zorth back." With no time to waste, Alira sprinted toward the console, ducking under a barrage of enemy fire. Kara joined her, her hands trembling as she began working furiously to redirect the energy buildup. The weapon's hum grew louder, its core glowing brighter with every passing second. The Zorth commander, realizing their intent, bellowed an unearthly roar. "Stop them. Protect the weapon at all costs." The Zorth forces surged forward, but the humans held their line, fighting with everything they had. As the energy levels on the console spiked into the red, Alira felt a flicker of hope and a gnawing fear. If they succeeded, they might save the galaxy. If they failed, they'd doom it instead. "Just a little more," Kara whispered, her fingers flying over the controls. Almost there. The weapon's hum became a deafening roar, drowning out all other sound. The ground shook violently as the room filled with blinding light. Alira clenched her teeth, bracing for the moment of truth. The silence following the activation of the weapon was deafening, broken only by the hum of its power coursing through the air. Alira stood in the vault, her body faintly illuminated by the radiant energy surrounding her. The ancient device pulsed like a heartbeat, sensing with her own as though their destinies were now intertwined. "Alira." Fen's voice came softly through the comm. His tone was reverent, almost disbelieving. What did you do?" She turned to face her squad, her eyes glowing faintly with the same light that pulsed from the weapon. "I didn't do this alone," she said, her voice steady. "The weapon, this beacon, it chose me. And it's more than just a weapon. It's a message, a signal of hope." Before her words could sink in, the Zorth commander's voice cut through the air like a dagger. "You think this changes anything, human?" His armor was scorched, and his forces had been thrown into disarray, but his defiance burned as fiercely as ever. "We are the Zorth. We will not be undone by a relic of the past." With a guttural roar, he rallied his soldiers. They'd regrouped quickly, their discipline reasserting itself despite the chaos. The commander pointed his blade at Alira, his voice dripping with venom. "Kill her. Take the weapon." The Zorth surged forward, but this time, something had changed. Alira felt the beacon's power surging through her veins, and as she raised her hand, the air seemed to shimmer and bend. A wave of energy radiated outward, sending the first wave of Zorth soldiers sprawling. Behind her, Fen and the rest of the squad stared in awe. "She's wielding it," Corin whispered, his voice tinged with disbelief. The Zorth regrouped again, determined to press their attack, but Alira stepped forward. Her movements were no longer hurried or panicked. They were calm, deliberate. She raised her hand again, and beams of light erupted from the weapon's core, striking with pinpoint precision. The beams didn't kill. This was not a weapon of destruction. Instead, it incapacitated the Zorth soldiers, rendering them unconscious without harming them. "This isn't just about fighting," Alira murmured, realization dawning on her. "It's about protecting, preserving." The Zorth commander snarled, his eyes blazing with fury. You think mercy will save you. You think the stars will bow to your weakness. Alira met his gaze, unflinching. No, she said firmly, but they'll rise for our hope. The beacon pulsed again, brighter this time, as if responding to her words. Alira felt its energy extend outward, beyond the vault, beyond the planet itself. It was broadcasting, sending a signal far and wide. A call for help, a rallying cry for those who had been beaten down, oppressed, or lost in the vastness of space. In the distance, the Zorth fleet in orbit began to falter. Their ships, once advancing toward the planet, began to drift apart, their formations crumbling. The beacon's signal was disrupting their communications, breaking the unity of their invasion force. The Zorth commander's composure finally cracked. "What is this?" he roared, his voice trembling with desperation. "What have you done?" Alira stepped closer, her glowing form radiating calm authority. "The galaxy is waking up," she said, "and your time of dominance is over." Behind her, Fen grinned, his confidence restored. "Looks like you've made some new friends, Commander," he said, nodding toward the horizon. Alira turned, and her breath caught. Ships were appearing in the sky, human vessels, patched and worn but still flying, joined by a motley collection of alien ships from allied species. The beacon's signal had reached them, calling them to the fight. The Zorth commander took a step back, his confidence eroding. "This isn't over," he spat. "We will return, and when we do." "You won't," Alira interrupted, her voice cutting through his threat. "Not while we stand together." As the reinforcements began landing, the Zorth forces were overwhelmed, retreating toward their ships in disarray. Alira watched them go, her heart heavy but resolute. The battle was not won yet, but the tide had turned. The beacon hummed softly, its light settling into a steady glow. It had done its part, for now. But Alira knew the real fight was only beginning. The galaxy had been given hope, but it was up to humanity and their allies to ensure it endured. The remnants of the Zorth forces retreated into orbit, their once imposing fleet scattered and vulnerable. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy witnessed their dominance falter, not from brute force, but from the united will of a people who refused to be conquered. Alira stood at the heart of the ancient vault, the beacon's light now a steady glow. The power coursing through her had receded to a quiet hum, leaving her with a profound sense of connection to something far greater than herself. Her squad gathered around her, their expressions a mixture of awe, exhaustion, and triumph. "Captain," Korn said, lowering his weapon. Did we just win?" Alira let out a breath, her gaze fixed on the distant sky where reinforcements were still arriving. "We've won this battle," she said, her voice steady. "But the war isn't over." "Not yet." Fen clapped a hand on her shoulder, grinning despite the smears of soot and blood on his face. "You've done something incredible, Alira. You've given us a fighting chance." The distant roar of engines announced the arrival of Allied ships descending toward the planet's surface. Alira recognized the markings of both human and alien vessels, a testament to the beacon's power to unite. As the ships landed, their crews disembarked, rushing to aid the wounded and secure the battlefield. One figure, an elder alien with deep-set eyes and ornate robes, approached Alira. His species was unfamiliar, but his presence radiated authority. "You are the one who activated the beacon," he said, his voice a melodic rumble. It was not a question but a statement. Alira nodded. "I didn't do it alone," she replied, gesturing to her squad. "We did this together." The alien inclined his head, his gaze sweeping over the beacon's glowing core. "This device was created by the Eldara, an ancient race that sought to protect life across the galaxy. It has been dormant for millennia, waiting for someone worthy to awaken it. And now that it's awake," Alira asked, her voice calm but curious. The elder alien met her gaze. "Now it calls to the oppressed, the forgotten, and the brave. It signals the beginning of a new alliance, one built on hope, not fear." Around them, The battlefield began to transform. Soldiers from different species, once divided by fear and mistrust, now worked side by side. They shared resources, tended to the injured, and prepared for what was to come. The beacon's light seemed to strengthen their resolve, its presence a reminder of what they were fighting for. Alira turned to her squad. "This isn't the end," she said. "The Torth will regroup. They'll come back stronger." Corin smirked, gripping his rifle. "Let them. We'll be ready." Fen chuckled, leaning on his weapon for support. "And next time, we won't be fighting alone." As the first rays of the planet's sun broke over the horizon, the beacon's light flared brighter, as if answering the dawn. Alira felt a deep sense of purpose settle within her. This was more than a battle. It was the start of a revolution. She turned to the elder alien. "We need to spread the word. The beacon's message has to reach every corner of the galaxy." The elder nodded. "The signal has already begun its journey, but the galaxy will need leaders to guide them, to inspire them." Alira squared her shoulders. "Then we'll lead. Humanity will stand with anyone willing to fight for freedom and hope." The elder's eyes glimmered with approval. "Then perhaps there is still a future worth fighting for." As the Allied forces rallied and prepared to pursue the Torth, Alira felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She didn't fear it. The beacon had chosen her for a reason, and she would not let its light fade. With a final glance at the glowing beacon, she stepped forward, her squad following close behind. The galaxy was vast, and the challenges ahead would be immense. But for the first time in a long time, Alira felt something she hadn't in years.